Hey everybody, Tom here, and today I want to teach you how to set up Tzolk'in, the Mayan calendar. This game has, I would say it's been on my shelf of shame, but that's not true. It's a game that I've always thought about picking up, and I just never did, but it really seems to have longevity, and it's really high up on the BGG top games, and I just never got it. Anyway, after playing Teotihuacan by the same designer, I decided to finally pick it up and see what all the hubbub was about. So let's go ahead and crack open the lid. Now, first thing, let's talk rulebook. I feel like the rulebook was pretty good. I don't have any major issues, but there is a lot going on here, and it was fine. I'd give it a 7 out of 10 if I'm picking some random number to say. So, rulebook there. Now, you're going to see in here that I have made 4 different boxes to store all of the components for this game. This board is crazy, as you're going to see in a minute if you don't know that already, and I just feel like I hate baggies, and the way that components are stored during gameplay, I kept thinking, wow, I would love to make a box to hold all of this. So I have some boxes, so I'm going to take these out. We'll talk more about these in just a second, but that's what these 4 boxes are. And I guess I will say, if you're interested in making these boxes, these are just do-it-yourself, just made with regular cardstock. In the description of this video, there's a link for a web page that I have created where you can browse all of my board game crafts that I've created, and there will be information on how to download these files and videos that I've created to help you learn how to make them and all that stuff. But having said that, that's not what this is about. This is about getting Tzolk'in set up. So basically inside of this box, we have, I think there are 6 pieces of the board, and this board doesn't just fold up, it is like you need to piece it together. So I guess a way to help you know how to piece this together without just looking in the rule book is everything is read in one direction. So if you're sitting around the table, it's all going to face a single direction. So as I set this up, I usually just focus on the numbers around the outside of the track, and like a puzzle piece, I know where this goes. So I know that this needs to go in the bottom right-hand corner. And then this piece here, again, you just look at the numbers on the outside track. That will go right there. This board ends up being pretty big and super fun. So again, you kind of just focus on those numbers to know where this goes, and you're going to have this weird squiggle in the middle, and that's usually the last piece that I put down. So we'll just go ahead and piece things together as we're going around like this. And then the one piece of the board that's folded up is this one, and you want to be careful. So this game is kind of fun and exciting because it has these gears, and so you just want to be careful as you open this that the teeth don't get like stuck on one another like that, that you're kind of opening it up in a way that those teeth interlock. And then this is going to go in the middle, and you just once again need to make sure that the teeth interlock as you're laying this board down like that. Give it a good spin, make sure that things look good. Okay, I feel pretty good about that. And you don't have to do it right this second here, but we will want so in this big center spoke, and it's really hard to see, but there's a lot of beautiful detail on this. I know that I've seen awesome paintings, like people have painted these gears. I just got this game not too long ago, so I haven't done any of that. But essentially in setup, you're gonna wanna turn the gears so that one of the teal sides is pointing, that this arrow is pointing to one of the teal sides, and then your brown ones will be like that. Okay, so we've got the board out and ready to go. Like I said, I have all these different boxes for different things, so I guess I'll just grab one box at a time and go for it. This box here, well, actually, super fast, before I talk about the boxes, just in case you're interested, these are the boxes that I have here for tokens, resources, and player components. When you go to download these boxes, if you want to, there are 2 different designs. This is the variant or version A. They look like this, and so for example, if you look at the player components, I just have one color of each player color around the side. But there is a version B, if that at all interests you, and they look like this. I couldn't decide which variant I liked better, so you can look at the player components. So this has all 4 colors around the outside, and then I kind of wrapped those colors around like that, where this one doesn't quite look like that. So anyway, this is variant B, oh my gosh, here. But again, we're here to learn how to set up the game. Just want to say these are available because that's a thing I've been having fun with. Okay, let's start off with the monuments and buildings. So in this box, I have a bunch of tiles, and I have tried to set them up so they're easy to find, the different tiles. Monuments are going to have a yellow back, and then age 1 and age 2 buildings are going to have pink and then a brownish back. So let's go ahead and take out these tiles, and I'm going to, hold on, I need to walk around the camera over here. And let's take the yellow monument tiles, and these tiles get shuffled up, and depending on how many players you have, that's going to dictate, I'm trying to get this thing centered. Can you tell I keep trying to do that? That's going to dictate how many of these tiles actually come out on the board. If you're playing a 2-player game, you're going to want 4 of these tiles. A 3-player game, you're going to want 5, and a 4-player game, you're going to want 6. So shuffling up these tiles, I'm going to be setting up for a 2-player game, so I'm going to go ahead and draw 4 tiles. And the rest of these are going to go back in the box out of the game. So that's just for the yellow monuments. So I'm going to go ahead, oh my gosh, sorry, I got stuck. Let's get that fixed, sorry. We'll go ahead and lay these tiles out. And in gameplay, these tiles are never refreshed. We just have those 4, no others, so don't get too excited. Next up, we have our age 1 and age 2 tiles here. And so we'll go ahead, and the age 2 tiles come out halfway through the game. So I'm just going to shuffle this pile of tiles, and I won't, worry about them too much. We'll just get those shuffled up and lay them right here. And then maybe down here, I might shift. And then our age 1 tiles, we'll get those shuffled up. We use these for the first half of the game. And we're going to lay these out. No matter how many players you have, what you do is you take this entire pile, and we're going to lay them right here, and take one of each of those and lay them out along this bottom row. And again, doesn't matter how many players you've got, you're just going to fill that entire row, and throughout the game, as these get purchased, you will refill them. So we'll keep those piles out while the monument tiles go away. Next up, let's grab some, we'll do tokens in a second. Let's do some resources. So taking a look at this box here, the way I've set this up is, well, in the rule book, it kind of has you making piles of these resources on the game board, mostly in this area right here. And that's just obnoxious for me. So what I've done is I've designed these little boxes like this so that you can just take out the boxes and lay them on the board. So the rule book recommends that you put these on the board, and I've tried to make them an appropriate size to where you could just lay these directly on the board. But I feel like maybe for this video, that might not be the prettiest thing to look at. And so my plan is to just have these above the board somewhere. You want people to have easy access to them. But we're going to go ahead and set out those resources. We have gold, crystal skulls, wood, and stone. If you are really picky about putting those in order of like value, there's a chart right here. So like wood is the least valuable, and then stone, and then gold, and then crystal skulls are pretty valuable, so we'll keep those at the end. Something like that. Doesn't really matter, but they're available. Okay, there's your resources. Next up, we have our tokens and tiles box. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this open, and these have tokens of all different sizes and stuff like that. So the first 2 things are, we have corn of value 1 and corn of value 5. And you're just supposed to kind of pile these onto the main gear. And so again, I've tried to design these little boxes just so that they sit nicely, and you can just grab outside of that box, and that would be cool. And then we're going to have harvest tokens. So harvest tokens are going to end up on this part of the board. I'm going to actually zoom in to talk about how to place the harvest tokens during setup in just a second. But first of all, then we also have starting tiles. So let me just put starting tiles to the side for now. Let's zoom in here and talk about these harvest tiles and how to place them out for setup. So right here we have this green gear, and this green gear is going to really be focused on wood and corn harvesting. And so here in this box we have wood tiles and corn tiles. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take the corn tiles, and you're going to, you can kind of see in these boxes, there are 4 different big boxes broken up into 4 smaller boxes. And so depending on your player count, you're going to want to start with your corn tiles. And we're doing a 2-player game, so we're going to lay 2 corn tiles in each of these bigger boxes like this. If we were playing a 3-player game, we would also put a 3rd corn tile on the 3-player icons there. And in a 4-player game, you fill up all 4 spots. All right, so we have that part down. And I'm going to turn this around. So kind of use these icons to help you out. This part of the board will only have corn, and so this square is done. But these 3 have corn and wood, and so what we're going to do for these parts here is we're going to take a wood tile and cover the corn tile like this. Okay, and the wood does need to cover the corn. You can't have the corn on top of the wood. It needs to be corn on the bottom, wood on the top. After that, we're done with this box. It can go away. Next up, we're going to have the individual player pieces. So once again, I've tried to design this so that it's super easy to use, and I keep going back and forth. So let me show you. We have a first player token that would randomly get assigned. I'm going to do a 2-player game, so I'm going to do a red and blue player situation as per usual, and I will make the blue player first player. So I'm just going to hand this over here in the spot where I'm going to make a pile for our blue player. But then what you're going to have is these player aids that are also going to be handy in gameplay. And so you got 1 of each color, so I'm going to want a blue and a red. And these are double-sided, and they're nearly identical. You have a light side and you have a dark side. The only difference is an icon down here that should remind you of a thing later on. So for now, we're going to keep these on the light side. I'll have one to blue and 1 to red. And then I have my boxes here. So I guess what I was going to say is you could keep these player aids on top or underneath these individual player boxes. It really doesn't matter. But I like to keep them, I think I like to keep them on top because it makes like a nice stable top to hold everything down, whatever. But no matter how many players you're playing with, you're going to need pieces of all of the colors. So if you're playing 4 players, everybody's going to get one of these boxes. If you have 3 players get a box, but you're going to need pieces out of the other one. So I'm just going to take the yellow and green out for now, and then I'm going to hand the blue and red players their boxes, and I won't need these for now, so let me get those out of the way. So we're going to go ahead and set up the blue player here. I know that we have these pieces, and it's going to be obvious that this is the blue player, but in all of my videos, in case you're new to my channel, I really like to put a colored paper underneath just to truly emphasize which player we have as we're bouncing the camera back and forth. You don't have to even second guess where we are. So hopefully that's all right with all of us. If it's not, go away politely. But basically we'll just, I don't know where I'm going to put this, maybe over here. So we've got our player aid. I'm going to want these here in just a second. And then you're going to have all these pieces. You're going to have 6 tall cylinders. Okay. And we're going to have, let me think. Okay, so we have 1 big disc, and then we're going to have 7 little discs. So what I'm going to do is we're going to keep 3 of these cylinders over here, and I'm going to take everything else over to the main board. Now, I can't really claim credit for what I'm about to do, where I keep the resources up here. I learned this or saw this on YouTube from the Heavy Cardboard channel, and I thought it was really smart because when I was playing this on my own, I kept mixing up the cylinders, these are workers, that are available for all players and those that aren't. And so they kept their resources up here, and what they did is they put 3 cylinders in this spot, and these are the workers that you can buy throughout the game. You can hire additional workers, and they just kept it up here. Obviously, you could keep those anywhere. I think the rulebook just has you keeping them near your player board, but again, for me, I kept grabbing from the wrong ones. We're going to use the big disc in a minute. That's our scoring disc, but I'm going to take these 7 smaller discs, and here, let me get this out of the way. And we're going to put 3 of those discs right here on these white spaces of these temple tracks. And then we're going to take the other 4. Where did my other one go? Oh, there it is. We're going to take the other 4 and lay them here along the technology track. And then our scoring disc is going to go down here at 0, and we can get rid of this box. Or if you wanted to, because obviously you wouldn't be playing with this paper, I actually think that this box is very useful to store resources in if you're playing with a bunch of other people. But for now, I'll go ahead and get rid of it. But the other thing that we're going to get is we're going to get 4 starting wealth tiles. So I'm going to go ahead and deal out 4 to the blue player. And we're not going to look at it. I've been debating if I look at these during the setup video or the gameplay video. I think I'm going to use these in the gameplay video, and I will finish setup by choosing 2 of these. When you set up the game, basically right before you play, everybody starts with 4 of these tiles. There are things on the other side. They'll pick 2 of the tiles to keep, and that will show them what starting resources they get. So I'm going to actually use that to help me explain how to play the game later on. Alright, so just for your reference, I actually decided to move the red player from being on the right side of the board to the left. The blue player is right up here. We're going to set up the red player right next to the game board over here. It'll just be easier for me to record. So here's my red paper that might be unnecessary, but I don't care. We're going to stick with it anyway. Let me go ahead. No, we'll do that in a second. So I wanted to keep 3 cylinders here. And then we're going to take everything else over to the board. Let's go ahead and drop off our scoring tile. And then we'll get our 3 workers available to purchase over here. And we've got our other discs, and they're just going to go ahead and join the blue player on these temple tracks and these technology tracks here. Like this. I'm done with that. Oh, and as I was sliding the board, I moved I moved these tiles like that just so I could slide the board more easily. So let's adjust that. And just as before, we're going to go ahead and give the red player 4 starting tiles that we will look at later on. And then, again, like I said, if you have 3 or 4 players, if you have 2 or 3 players going, we're going to use the player pieces and these starting tiles to kind of set up some, I don't know what to say, but let's go look and then I'll think of a better word. Basically, this is a worker placement game, and so the fewer players you have, the more openness there is. And so in a 2 or 3 player game, we're going to use some of these workers to block some of the spots, essentially. And so the way this is going to work is if you're playing with 3 players, let's say that yellow is also a player, then you would want the 6 workers from the green player out on the board randomly. And if you're playing with 2 players, you want the 6 workers from the other 2 player colors. So 12 colors in all, or 12 workers in all, will be on the board blocking spaces. Now, the rule book recommends, and I think it's very smart, that, I mean, the default is to use the workers on these spots. But because it's kind of easy to knock things over as you're moving your hand around, they recommend in the rule book that maybe you just use 6 of these smaller discs from both players. So I'm going to go ahead and grab 6 of the 7. Oh, there's 6. 6 of the 7 smaller discs from the yellow player, and I'm going to grab 6 of the smaller discs from the green player, and we'll use these. Everything else can go back in the box, but we're going to use these to kind of block off some of the spaces. So here's how this works. For each of these discs, sorry, we're going to grab a starting tile. And I want to point out that each of these 5 gears has a name that I can't pronounce on them. But basically there's the green, tan, red, yellow, blue gears. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a starting tile one at a time, and we're going to look at the disc name, or the gear name. So this is Palanque. I don't know how to pronounce that, and it won't focus. But this says Palanque, I don't know, 7. And so I'm going to find the disc with that name. That's the green one. And I'm going to grab one of the discs and put it on space number 7. It'll have a little corn symbol behind it. Now, if this is the first time you're placing a disc on any given gear, then you need to also place, well, on these 4 gears, then you need to also place a disc exactly opposite of that. So that said palanque 7, and we're going to place one here, and we'll go across. Okay, so next up, so this is that same name that I can't pronounce, but with the number 3. And so this is not the first disc we're placing, so we just put one on the 3. I don't need to put one across the gear at all. And I keep saying disc and gear, it'll be a thing. Okay, next up, we have Yakchilan 1, whatever. And it really doesn't matter which color you're grabbing. So that's going to be this tan color. It said the number 1, so this goes here. It was the first disc on that gear, so we'll also put one opposite of that. And we're going to keep drawing tiles until we run out of discs to put down. Okay, so this is, I always want to say chicken itza, but it's not. It's, here, can you see it? It's not focusing very well. Chichen itza. That's the blue one. So the blue one is the exception where you don't put one opposite of that. So this says 5. So I'm going to find corn 5. There we go. And I think one of the big reasons for that is there is no exact opposite. It would be in between. But also this is kind of a special gear in the game. So we'll just keep going. Okay, so this one was Tikal 3. I know that word. That's a good small word. So that's the first time we're putting one over here. So then we'll go opposite of that. Kind of nice that we're almost going all the way around. And then we have Chichen Itza. No. Chichen Itza 10. So we'll grab one of these. Again, these don't go opposite. And we'll keep going. Palanque 5. Wow, that's very full over there. And that'll be interesting. Okay, so this time we have Uxmal 5. And since that's the first time we're placing on this one, that'll be the end of our placements. So we just go like that. And the rest of these tiles can go in the box. We're done with them. Oh, I made a little mess. But basically at this point, we are all the way set up. So as I mentioned before, I'm going to put red and blue on this side of the board. This board is big enough that I think that'll be better than one on each side. But we are finally set up and ready to go. So just a reminder, in a 4-player game, you wouldn't have to put any starting discs on the gears. In a 3-player game, you would only put out 6 discs from the one color that's not being used. In a 2-player game, you put out 12 discs altogether, 6 from each of the colors not being used. But yeah, that's basically it. We're ready to go. That can feel a little overwhelming your first time. Hopefully this was kind of helpful. And like I said, for me, I really like just having these trays so that you can just lay them out really fast. But having said that, I'm ready to teach you how to play this game. If you're ready to learn how to play this game and to watch me play, go ahead and click on the link in the description of this video if you'd like, and let's get playing. I'm ready. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the gameplay video. Goodbye.